Hey, one quick thing I wanted to mention in episode 2. I had a little bit of a mix-up and I wanted to clarify before you listen. To be completely fair, I have seen neither of these movies, which is why I got them confused. I said Schindler's List when I meant to say Silence of the Lambs. Don't ask me why I get these confused. I think it's because I have never seen either one. I've been told that if I had seen either one of these movies, I would not get them confused. But nonetheless, I did refer to Silence of the Lambs as Schindler's List in this podcast. I'm sorry. It's my ignorance speaking. And I am not a big movie person. I like some movies, don't get me wrong, but I'm not huge on having to know about all movies that are popular. So please forgive me for getting that wrong. And when you get to that part of the podcast, you'll understand what I'm talking about. All right. Thanks, guys. Enjoy. Hi, I'm Tiana Shoei. I'm a writer, entrepreneur, leader, and energy. This is my podcast, Ain't Quite Right. Join me as we laugh, learn, and live big. Hello. Welcome to the Tiana Shoei Ain't Quite Right podcast. This is episode 2, and I'm here with my co-host,
Jack Connolly. Here we are.
All right. So this is officially podcast number 2. We listened to number 1, hopefully worked out some kinks and bugs.
Yeah. Well, it's been 30 minutes. So
Exactly.
This is episode 2. We are wearing the same clothes. I'm sorry we're recording it in nearly the same session. We're all about transparency here. So
Exactly. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And this is how we're
humble
starting.
beginnings.
Humble beginnings. Exactly. Everybody has to start from ground zero. And here we are on ground zero, quite literally.
And you have a unicorn mug.
I do have a unicorn mug. I guess move it around my microphone. This was
That is ridiculous.
present from, I actually have 2 of these. My brother-in-law and my cousin each got me one. So you could have a matching one.
That's where leadership starts, is a unicorn mug. It's a conversation starter, and that's how you just relate to people. Unicorns.
Exactly. That was actually my nickname in the ultra running community. Before unicorns became famous, I was called the unicorn.
Interesting. Why is that?
That is a great question. Somebody just one day said, "Oh, look, it's the unicorn," and the nickname stuck. And I have a whole bunch of unicorn garb as a result of this lovely nickname.
I didn't
that I was
see what
given.
that was earlier.
It is a Yeti riding
That's
a
funny.
unicorn on my hat.
All right.
Yes, I have a big pink trucker hat for those of you listening to audio only, and on it is a Yeti riding a unicorn.
Yeah. Yeti or Sasquatch?
Or the Bigfoot. Sasquatch, sorry. You're right.
Yeah.
It is
The
Bigfoot,
Yeti's the
yeah.
big white hairy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Sasquatch.
Correction.
All right.
All right. Well, I realized I made a mistake in the first episode, and I said I was going to tell a story about my farm life.
Yeah.
And I never
Yeah,
told
and you
that
didn't.
story.
That was the cliffhanger.
No,
So
I
it
did
was
not.
a test for these people to see if they're actually listening.
Listening. There you go. Yes, it was a test. So a couple days ago, this is very fresh in my mind. I just want you to know.
Yeah, tell me more.
I'm an animal fanatic. I love animals.
Yeah.
That's why I only have 3, because I can only be responsible for 3. But I have some people that live close by.
Wait. I know about your little dog, Nano, the cat that goes for walks.
Well, I have 2 cats that go for walks. I have my black cat.
Are they both black cats?
No. I have my black cat, Luna.
Ah, okay.
And she has a fun story. We'll tell her story one day.
Yeah.
And I have my white cat, Callie, and you have not seen Callie yet, but she'll come
Never.
snooping around here soon. It's almost dinner time for
Yeah.
her.
Okay, so your story.
Yes. So my story. So I have some people that live very close to me that have a farm full of animals, and they asked me if I could go over and feed their animals. And they left off one teeny tiny little detail.
What? Tell me.
Yes, the story I got to tell it inside the scope of the story. So my good friend, Bo Millwood, who's been one of my best friends for years, we are running and cycling companions.
Yeah.
He says, "Hey, I'll come over and help you when you take care of the animals, go feed the animals." So there's 2 goats, 2 pigs, a dog, a horse, 30 chickens, and 6 or 7 ducks.
All right.
Yeah, quite a chore. Now, first thing we do, open the barn, and in the barn are the goats and the pigs.
Yeah.
So I get a scoop full of pig food, and I jump in the pig pen, quite literally, which, for the record, my mother told me that my room looked like a pig pen all growing up, and now that I have actually been in a pig pen, I can tell you my
Do you
room.
understand?
Yes.
fully understand.
Fully understand. It was special in there.
Yeah.
Glad I wore my boots. Which, side note, is why the name of my blog is Boots and Boardrooms.
Yeah.
Because I have heels for my boardrooms and boots for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I jump in there and I start petting the pig, only to find out that this pig is not a friendly pig. And he comes snarling at me and bites a big chunk out of my leg.
Oh.
And proceeds to chase me around his pig pen.
Ooh.
So I'm running around screaming as this gigantic mean pig is making the most god-awful noises and biting me. And Bo's standing there yelling, Tiana, feed it! Feed it! So
feed
like,
it?
Feed it.
Oh, feed it.
So
I'm
dump
like,
the food, because I'm just running around with the food hoping I don't get bit again. And so I'm like, yes, good idea. So I run over and I dump the food in between dodging this charging pig. Which, by the way, if you would have told me, being a surfer chick in Southern California, that one day I was going to be dodging pigs.
Man.
I wouldn't have believed you. And finally, I dump the food, I jump out of there, and the thing is chasing me out the door, squealing, making all kinds of noise. And I realized I still had to get the thing water.
Oh.
Yeah.
And you can't just set a bowl down in there?
No, had to go in there one more time, get the water out. He managed to bite me.
But now you're smarter.
Smarter, but he still managed to bite me 2 more times in that time frame. Yeah. I naively went in there, started to pet that pig, and that pig wanted nothing to do with being pet.
I had no idea pigs actually. I've never been around pigs for a long time. Once in Guatemala. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I knew that, people have pigs as pets. I've been around pet pigs before, and so I've only ever known friendly pigs.
Yeah.
So I come home to tell my beloved husband that I was just chased by a pig, and he said, yes, haven't you ever seen Schindler's List? No, actually, I haven't. I tend not to watch those kinds of movies. And he's like, that's why he fed the bodies to the pigs.
Oh. All right. Okay, that makes sense now.
Yes.
I don't know if I've seen that movie. I've heard of it, but
yeah.
I can only assume.
So to all my Jewish friends that keep kosher, you probably want to keep staying kosher, man. That pork is some gnarly meat based on what I saw. I would have been on the menu if I would have moved a little bit slower.
Ooh. Yeah.
So farm life is always exciting. Always exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I had no idea. Glad you made it out alive.
Yeah, me too. Very, very glad.
Yeah.
So I have a fun topic for today's podcast. And I decided that I should probably, at least every few podcasts, talk about a book. Oh, I know. These books. This is going to be a great one I'm going to weave into today's discussion. But the topic I want to talk about is your life today what you imagined it would be when you were a kid?
Good one.
So I'm going to start with you, Jack.
Yeah.
When you were a kid and people asked you the inevitable question every adult asks a kid because they don't know how to make conversation. So let's go to the easiest common denominator. What do you want to be when you become like me, grown up? What was your answer as a kid?
That's actually a great question. I don't even know what my answer was when I was a kid, but I never dreamed that I would be doing photography or traveling the world doing it. So it came out of nowhere because it wasn't even in the cards for middle or high school. It's typically your guidance counselors just say, what college are you going to? It's not like, hey, there's a world of opportunities. You can be an entrepreneur. You can make your own business. It's what college are you going to? So it's pretty much one track mind. At least it was at my school. But as a kid, I don't know if I had a dream about what I would be when I grow up, but I'm happy how it turned out either way.
That's great. And you just hit the nail on the head, and you said something so important and so significant to why I wanted to bring this topic up early on in my podcast. And that is, we're taught so singularly in the way that you're advised in high school. You just think about college, right? And what your major is going to be, but you never really think about what you want your life to be.
Yeah.
So I'm actually an autodidact. And
no idea what that means.
So an autodidact, I'm autodidactic, which means that I'm a self-learner. I never went to college.
Why don't you just say self-learner?
Self-learner, but because I never went to college, but I educated myself in a way that I felt was most in line with what I wanted out of my life. And another big media personality that talks about this a lot is Gary Vee. I don't know
Oh,
if
yeah.
Gary Vaynerchuk. Did you? I've watched a video clip where he said he didn't do any homework in high school. Now, I'm not suggesting you don't do your homework in high school, kids. but what I am suggesting is that we do take way too narrow of an approach in the way that we think about what your life can be when you grow up. And so many of us feel pigeonholed into, you go to college and then you spend the rest of your life either working out of your student loan debt or following a traditional path of going into the business world. And Jack, you're a prime example. You're young and you've seen the world and you've made a living doing it. You and your wife got married where?
Italy, Sorrento, Italy. We had a little elopement ceremony there.
And it was beautiful. And so many people would dream of that type of thing, but never even think it's possible.
On a budget.
And
small one.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that the world is so much bigger than we make it because we are taught to think too narrowly about it.
Yeah.
So the book that I wanted to talk about to bring into this conversation is one of my favorite books that really kind of helped me open my mind and understand that we have a lot. Oops, sorry.
That ain't quite right.
Yeah, that is definitely, that ain't quite right. Had a mechanical failure. For those of you who are not watching the video, I just accidentally knocked off my microphone cover. I talk with my hands. That's my Italian in me. My Italian. One of the things that, that is so powerful about this book that I'm going to talk about is how one person changed the course of his entire life through the practice of visualizing what he wanted for his life. So the book is Into the Magic Shop, and it's written by Dr. James Doty. And in the book, Dr. Doty tells the story about being raised as a very neglected and abused child. He grew up in an alcoholic home. He had a mother with severe depression. She rarely got out of bed, rarely took care of the kids. And then when his dad was home, he was very abusive and often left for extended periods of time to go on drinking binges and would come back, and they were evicted from home after home. And in his story, he is a young man, a young kid. He goes into a magic shop. Long story made short, gets introduced to this lady named Ruth, who teaches him a meditation practice. And there were two key components to the meditation practice. First of all, he had to learn to deal with his anxiety.
Yeah.
Because being a kid that was extremely abused, he had a tremendous amount of anxiety. And so she taught him a practice of calming himself down, learning to use the mind to calm the body, because your mind has a tremendous amount of power over what happens in your body. And going forward, because I am such a health nut, to do the endurance athletics that I do, I have to be able to keep up by fueling my body and taking care of my body, right? So she we'll talk a lot about how you can detach your mental state from your body and reduce stress in your life. Stress is so bad for your body.
Yeah.
And so Ruth teaches him how to do that. But then the second thing she teaches him to do is imagine what he wants for his life. And ultimately, Dr. Doty went on to be a neurosurgeon. So a kid from basically nothing goes on to be a neurosurgeon, and he did it all through visualization. Now, the interesting thing about it is the reason that the visualization works is because it creates neural pathways in your brain. So your brain does not know the difference between your imagination and reality. And so by training your brain and by training his brain to say, I am a neurosurgeon, his brain then began to think as though he were a neurosurgeon and identify opportunities that eventually led him to get into medical school and led him to have all of the things that it would take to become a neurosurgeon. And he wrote this incredible book to teach anybody who wants to change their life. But the first part about all of that is asking yourself the question, is my life what I want it to be? Or have I just simply believed the cultural rhetoric that you go to school, you do your thing, you put in your 40 hours a week, and you have fun on the weekends, which is so disappointing because I think you and I can both say that we both make a living doing things we love.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that doesn't mean you always love everything you do, because accounting.
I feel you.
Right? But the overall gist of our lives, we are doing what we're passionate about.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit of courage. It's a little scary sometimes.
Yeah.
But when you have the determination and you have a passion for something, you can achieve anything in your life you really want to. Barring growing wings and supernatural things like that we we won't get into here. But But, we talked about, Jack, in the last episode, we talked about 68% of the workforce is unengaged.
Yeah.
And I believe leadership has a lot to do with that. But I also believe in personal responsibility as well. So I would challenge our listeners out there to say, what in your life have you accepted simply because it was the easiest way to go, or it was the way that you were told to go, but not because you were passionate about what you were doing? And what are you truly passionate about?
Yeah. Some self-reflection is key there. And also surrounding yourself with people who know more than you and maybe are on the path that you want to be going, right? So people that are farther along. So when I started my photography business, I reached out to other photographers that have been doing it for a long time, because you can't just only visualize something and blindly go into it.
Exactly.
Like, you need to know what you're visualizing and how to get there, right? So what your adventure, you were just doing insurance for a while, long while. How did you visualize yourself getting into teaching leadership?
Yeah, that's a great
Are you
question.
sitting at a desk?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm killing myself here.
That's a great question. And actually that's pretty close to the story that happened. I was working full-time in the insurance industry, and I woke up one day riddled with anxiety, something that I've never really struggled with because I am an endurance athlete. So I have such a great outlet for my stress. I was so stressed out. I was in another situation. Again, there are so many, and I'm not trying to be critical here, but there are so many poor leaders out there, just under terrible leadership. And I said to myself, you know what? This is not what I want for my life. I want something else. And so to your point, I did exactly what you said. I hired a coach who was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
I surrounded myself with people that were smarter than me. And I changed everything about what was coming into my life in my input as far as information. So I changed my Instagram feed. I changed my Facebook feed. I changed what I watched on TV. Everything that I took in it from people that were living the life that I wanted to live. So I started following the Rachel Hollises and all of the other entrepreneurs, the Tony Robbins, the John Maxwell's, the Greg McKeown's. I started following other entrepreneurs, and I started embracing that lifestyle vicariously through them and learning from them, and then had a coach who really just kind of kicked my butt. And that is another thing that I do. I do some executive coaching. I have several clients that I absolutely love to work with, to help them do exactly what my coach did for me, which is get me out of my own head.
Yeah.
And let me see that there is a much bigger reality out there that I was too afraid to even embrace, because I'll tell you one of the best pieces of advice one of my mentors gave me: get off the paycheck drug.
Yeah. That's comfort though, right?
Right.
Is that what you're trying to get off of, basically, is push yourself out of that comfort zone of having a paycheck every week?
And just learning to think of more creative ways to bring that money in. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 5 years old. I started my first business at 5 years old, Wasp Busters. And it was amazing how long it took me to go. It's like the pendulum had to kind of come back down to the middle, where I went, a little kid who made money. I had jobs and worked all the time as a kid, all the way over to the other spectrum where I was just corporate and felt like the only way to make money was through a paycheck. And then kind of letting things bounce back out and realize that the world is really big. And there's a lot of ways to earn a living outside of the box, the four corners that we've been taught. And you and I are both living proof, amongst millions of other Americans, that there's more to life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's key. So what would you say the three main points are from what we just talked about? Sum it up. I think we're wrapping up here with our 20 minutes.
Yeah, you're right. So the three main points, I would say, number one, just start asking yourself, is my life what I imagined it would be? Is my life what I would want it to be? If I were 5 years old and I was looking at my life again today, would I be proud of what I became, or would I be disappointed in what I became?
Yeah.
So, just start questioning. The second thing I would say is start imagining, ask yourself the questions. What am I passionate about? What excites me? If I had a magic wand and could change anything in the world, what would I change? And start asking yourself the questions of, what really do I want from this life? And then I say the third thing is, once you start to have a picture, an idea of what really excites you, it doesn't have to be a full-time gig. It can be something on the side that you do for fun. start to put people in your life, start to follow people in your life that have gone down that road. I think you found the same thing. When you reach out to people and you ask for help, people are usually so generous with their time and so kind and will give you advice. I have so many senior executives at insurance companies or entrepreneurs that were more than willing to spend an hour on the phone with me while I said, just let me get in your head and help me answer some questions. Change your social media feed. Get rid of the junk. Stop watching TV and use your free time to start figuring out how to do something that you're passionate about.
There it is. Stop and think, visualize.
Yeah.
Put some action behind it. Reach out to people who already are where you want to be.
Yeah. And if you want a good book, Into the Magic Shop by Dr. James Doty. And this is going to be a subject we talk about, we'll dabble in and out of this subject because I think it's so important, because I believe everybody on this planet has a purpose. And your purpose is what you're passionate about in a way that you are able to give back to other people. And, that's why jumping on this podcast for me was so easy. And apart from all the technical difficulties that we've had getting this set up, because I'm so passionate about helping people live their best and fullest life, that the time and energy and money that it takes to put into this is 110% worth it. And I will continue to encourage, share, and I've got a great co-host over here that has also made incredible life for himself. If you go on and look at his photography at
JackRobertPhotography.com, no S after Roberts.
And what's your Instagram handle?
Jack Robert Photography.
Yep. And I should have said this earlier. I have an Instagram that's at Girl Runs Trail.
Yeah.
Girl Runs Trail. Tiana Shoei, I also own Tiana Shoei, but Girl Runs Trail is just it's a throwback to when I was a blogger. I used to have a blog called My Dirty
You're still
Habit.
a blogger.
I am still a blogger. It's not just
a
running
different
blog
blogger
anymore. Yeah. I had My Dirty Habit, trailrunningchick.com was my my blog. So if you go on the Wayback Machine, you can go back and see my older blogs. But I had to keep my Girl Runs Trail handle for Instagram. So Girl Runs Trail is my Instagram page if you want to follow me there. You can follow my blog at tianashoei.com. But thank you for listening to us. Subscribe if you like the content. Recommend us to other listeners, other friends. We're going to have a lot of dynamite content talking about all the things life, because guess what? Life is many things. We just had a little cameo with my dog Nano, the Chihuahua.
No, he's fine, all right? He just limps.
Yeah, he just limps. Yeah. So for those of you watching on video,
he's well taken care of. He's loved. All right. He just walks like that.
He just walks funny.
Be your own dude.
Exactly. Be your own dude. And I think again, we're gonna laugh together. We're gonna learn together, and we're gonna live together. And so that's the theme of this podcast: learn, laugh, and live. It ain't right.
It ain't right. It ain't right. All right, and we're out.
Thanks for listening to my podcast. Tune in for future episodes.